Hey guys, welcome back to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. I have someone here who I think we will enjoy his story. He basically gets up on stage every week and tells a story of sort. My friend Cory Jones here with us today. What's up, man?
What's up, man?
When I said stories, I don't mean like lies.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I do realize that this intro is probably the same intro you tell everybody, isn't it?
You're not supposed to call me out on that.
Okay. Well, I just, you're kind of buttering me up here, but I'm kind of thinking, wait a second.
It's all true, though. It's all very, very true.
Except for the stories I tell on Sunday morning.
Well, you do tell stories. You just don't tell, like, fib stories. You
yes,
tell
that's true.
Real stories.
Real life, real practical stories. Correct.
All right. First question. You ready?
All right. Give it to me.
Are you a Parisian or are you a Parasite?
Oh, I aspire to be Parisian.
See, I think there needs to be a middle ground.
Okay.
Like, there needs to be a name for something. Me and a few others podcasters have talked about this. Guests have talked about this. There should be a Parisian, a person who aspires to be a Parisian, and then a Parasite.
I like it.
And I've had one guest that wasn't born here, but is so wholehearted, and he was a great guy. I mean, he knew more history about Paris, Texas than anybody I've ever sit down and talked to yet.
So he's got to be included in the Parisian club, right?
He is wholeheartedly Parisian.
And see, that's where I don't know the legitimate, like, Wikipedia definition of Parisian versus Parasite. I know if you're not born here and you move in, you start off with the label of Parasite.
Unless it's a really short turnaround. So if you were you moved here within 3 months to a year.
Right. Then you're kind of, they slide you in on grace or something, right?
Exactly.
So we moved here and yes, obviously being from, outsiders, I guess we were parasites, but immediately jumped into the community. So I guess my definition, I guess maybe people would have to tell me whether or not I'm Parisian or Parasite. But from my definition, a Parisian is somebody that cares about the community, wants to be involved in the community, wants to be a part of the community, it wants to be seen in the community. It's all about wanting to be in relationship, be a part of it. And so I would say, yes, I am. I just don't know when that line of you were born outsider, when do you get to cross over?
I like it. That's probably the best answer I believe I've had yet.
Well, you're welcome. Because think about it, right? A parasite, not a person moving into Paris, but a parasite actually is a leech. It sucks some. So so a Parisian then, being the opposite of a parasite, is somebody that gives back, wants to be involved, doesn't want to suck the life out of Paris.
I think when I came into this podcast, I didn't have an answer to this question. I just wanted to see. I thought it was a really solid opening question because I feel like, and I've said this in other podcast, I feel like you have to answer that question with a story, which you have.
Yes.
Like, if I was to be asked the question, I would be like, I was born and raised, so I'm a Parisian. I grew up here. I stayed here till I graduated from high school in 2000, and then I moved away. So that I went right into a story to answer that question. So it just kind of starts us off on a good story.
Yeah.
But I really like you can earn your way into being a Parisian by giving back. I love that.
See, that's, again, I don't know the legitimate black and white definition of Parisian, but I'd like to believe when we moved here, we immediately jumped into being involved in the community, and I would like to think that's what a Parisian is.
Boom.
So even if it's an honorary title, like one of those, a fake degree, I'll take it.
Deal. Okay, where were you born?
I was born and raised in Harlingen, Texas, which is 10 miles from Mexico, about 30 miles from South Padre Island. Normally you tell people South Texas and they think like San Antonio. Some may think Corpus, but I was 3 hours south of Corpus.
Goulet.
I was in, it's northern Mexico is what it really is.
On the edge.
I was right there on the border. Another 10 miles and I'd be in another country.
And how close to the ocean were you?
30 minutes from South Padre Island.
So did you go to the ocean a lot as a kid?
My family put a pop-up camper every summer down on South Padre, and I lived there for the summers.
That's awesome. Did you surf?
I was a surfer. I did. I've got some crazy stories. I was surfing one time, jumped off my surfboard, landed on a stingray. Still have the mark of the barb in my foot. Was surfing another time. Was paddling out over the waves, and I was paddling out over. Sets usually come in three, and so I'd paddled over the first. Paddled like as I'm cresting the second wave, I look at the third, and it was just picturesque. It's like starting to swell up, and I can see these fish. They're probably at least 1.5 feet long. I mean, they look massive, and they're darting right through the wave. It was like the most beautiful, serene moment I've ever seen in my life. And then right behind them, I saw why they were running was the 6-foot shark that was chasing behind them. So I turned my board and ran back to shore. Man, another time it was actually my 16th birthday. I'm out in the ocean, just me and my dad. We're sitting there on our boards, and a whole school of dolphins came and swam right up to us and just started playing all around us. So yeah, lots of surf stories. Loved the island, loved the sand between my toes and everywhere else, and I grew up on the beach, so I loved it.
We need one of those. Have you ever been to those places in like malls and in amusement parks where and it's like a surf, like half pipe type thing, like where they have like you can jump in and there's water flowing, and it's a fake wave, and you can like surf on that fake wave. I think Paris, Texas should have one.
That
of those.
would be awesome. They're a lot. Well, they have one on South Padre Island at Schlitterbahn. They have them wave parks and man, they're a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun in Paris. Our own little beach scene.
I've tried surfing in Hawaii, but I've never surfed on like a wave machine.
Well, again, I say I surfed. Remember, this is like South Padre Island where the swells are 2 feet. You know, I'm not talking, Hawaii where
owned a surfboard and you paddled out. That's good enough.
I owned a surfboard. I even got into the business of making skimboards at one time. One summer, I was making and selling skimboards to pay for my island habits. So it was a great time. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so how long did you live in Harlingen for?
Born and raised there. I lived there till the summer before my senior year of high school. And it was the summer of 94. Wow. It's been a little while.
A couple days ago.
That summer, my parents decided they'd always wanted to live in Colorado. So my dad quit his job, stopped doing what he was doing, and we just up and moved to Colorado. So I moved my senior year of high school, which would normally be like a big bummer. You're leaving all your friends behind, but it was Colorado. I mean, you hear dream stories of Colorado. So my senior year, moved to a tiny little town called Woodland Park, just west outside of Colorado Springs, straight up the mountain. My first home was 10,000 feet. So I went from South Padre 0 to Woodland Park 10,000 elevation and could not find enough oxygen to survive. It was crazy.
True that. Now, this is when you became a Broncos fan, right?
It was there that, I really started watching the Broncos. Again, 94, that was like the epitome of John Elway and some of the really great Bronco years. So me and my dad started to, the whole family started to watch Bronco games all the time. And that's where my obsession with the Broncos kind of really took hold.
Did you go up any like 14ers, any big mountains?
Oh, well, Pikes Peak was right out our back door. In fact, our window looked right out so every morning I woke up and looked at Pikes Peak. So we'd go up Pikes Peak. Every July 4th, they do a race up Pikes Peak. It's an amazing thing. If you've never done it, I encourage people to go out there. You get some people drive up, but you can hike up if you want to, and these races are crazy. I mean, if you just drive Pikes Peak on your own, it takes a considerable amount of time. I mean, it's these really crazy turns with these crazy cliffs on the side of you, and you're looking straight down edges, and then all of a sudden you're standing on the road, right on the edge of the road when they're doing these races, and they make it up in 10 minutes. I mean, they are flying up these little roads and drifting around these corners, and it's crazy to watch. A lot of fun. So yes, I've done a number of 14ers. It started in Colorado. I did a few, but then here 5 to 10 years ago, I really got into glacier climbing, and so did a number of others after that.
What? How did I not know this?
Yeah.
Do you have like an axe pick and?
I've still got it all. I've got the crampons, the ice axe, the self-arresting equipment, and all that fun stuff. I was climbing glaciers. Yeah, it's I don't know that it's something I'll do again, but I enjoyed my time doing it.
Did you ever pretend like you were Sylvester Stallone from that movie Cliffhanger?
Yeah, him or there's been a few really good climbing movies.
Yeah.
But no, there was no attempt at me being Sylvester Stallone. Mainly, I mean, the obvious reason being because he is so much shorter than me.
Oh,
that's why
that's
this
the
wouldn't
reason.
work.
That's a really good.
That's what I think of when I think of Sylvester.
Awesome. See, I didn't even know that. That's amazing. All right, so you were in Colorado for how long?
We moved there in '94. I called Colorado home until 2002.
Ooh.
I think. But during that time, I moved around a bunch. Colorado was still home, but I moved to Louisiana to go to Bible college. I moved out to Australia to go to Bible college out there. So it's just kind of all over the place, but Colorado was still kind of home base. Is where my parents were and just home base for me.
That's awesome. And so where did you go to after that?
After Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. It was 94, graduated 95, still living in Colorado. 95, I moved out to Louisiana, and I stayed in Louisiana till end of 98. And it was 99 that I moved to Australia. And I lived in Australia for a little over a year, came back to Colorado, and from Colorado, moved to Kansas, Northwest. Nothing there.
Nothing. Northwest of nothing.
Kansas, but there was a big draw. There was a major draw. I had met a woman that changed my life, and so it was leave Colorado behind to move to the plains of Kansas.
Okay, how did you meet this amazing woman?
Man, it was on a trip. I was working for a ministry in Colorado, and I was helping facilitate youth group trips, a whole bunch of groups that were going down to an orphanage in Saltillo, Mexico. And so I had gone down to Saltillo, Mexico, and all of a sudden in walks Melissa Dorman, and it was over. Now, that was 2001, actually. That was 2001. I will say, and there was a period of time in 2000 where we were trying to be set up. Some people knew her, knew me, and were trying to set us up. And so she drove out from Kansas to Colorado. So there was one day brief meeting. Mm-hmm. But I don't like to be set up, so I put walls up, put guards up, and as soon as she walked into the room, I put on my
blinders.
I put on my smile face and just kind of nodded and smiled. And I mean, she had land in Kansas that had great pheasant hunting on, so I made sure to take her number. but it was a little deceptive, maybe. I mean, I got her number, but I never talked to her again until Saltillo, Mexico, 10 months later in 2001. Crazy. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it was over.
It's over.
Yeah, she studied art in college at K-State, Kansas State, and so can paint incredibly. I mean, she's phenomenal. And so here I was, puppy dog, following her around this orphanage in Saltillo, Mexico. Beautiful orphanage, but she had gone down probably 4 or 5 times and had painted these murals all over the walls, Noah's Ark kind of theme, just painted up the whole orphanage. And so, not to be outdone, I had to show her that I could tag along and stick with her. I painted. And to this day, there is still a brown blob of an animal that might be a monkey, might be a bear. It's got eyes, but it's just kind of this brown circle something that was my attempt to hang out with Melissa and just get to know her better.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those poor kids, they don't know what that thing is. It's terrible.
She has like this realistic looking mountain. With
everything else is like picture perfect.
Like water and
everything else picture perfect. And then there's like, is it hanging from a tree? Is it like sitting on the ground? What's it? What is that? What is that brown circle thing right there?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. You said Australia?
I picked peaches and lived in Australia. I made Australia home for a little over a year. It was a year and a couple months.
Australia's on my bucket list. I want to go so bad.
It's amazing. And what's crazy, Australia is the exact same size as the continental United States. But as far as people, there's only a few million people that live in the whole thing because they only live on the coast.
Outer edges.
Yeah, only live on the coast. And so I moved to Sydney, Australia, just outside of Sydney, in a place called the Balcombe Hills. And man, it was beautiful. You go down to Bondi Beach, down on the harbor, and see just every scene it's there, and the cliffs, and had even a chance to go out bush, go on a walkabout, and got to, I shot a kangaroo.
Oh no, you didn't.
Now listen though,
you shot a kangaroo.
But listen, it was lame. It was hurting. It was not going to survive, and so I did a humane duty. For those that are listening that don't want to hear that kangaroos were shot, but then we turned it into hamburger. And so I had, it's not hamburger, I guess it was Kanga burger. I don't know, but I've
actually had a Kanga burger.
It's really good. Although it's super lean, like it is crazy lean. So we had to add a whole bunch of egg, breadcrumb, and just a bunch of spice and stuff to it to actually make a patty. But yeah, I ate burgers in the outback of Australia from a kangaroo that I had shot that day.
That's hey. I would have told him I got him with my bare hands.
Well, I ran it down first, jumped on its back. Yeah, absolutely. Choked it out.
Jumped with it for a little while.
Oh yeah, it carried me for a number of miles.
But it was lame.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was lame. It was hurting, and so I saw it from a distance, and I knew we needed to eat, and so I did that. So if you're a Kanga lover, I'm sorry. I'll just go ahead and apologize right now up front. I did do it. It was a long time ago. It was in my past. So yeah, there you go.
All right. So now you moved back to Harlingen at some point, right?
Yes, Melissa and I ended up getting married. We lived there in Kansas for a little over a year. And then I took a position with a church down in South Texas called Christian Fellowship Church, and moved there in 2003, I guess it was, or 4, somewhere. It was right there. And so lived down in Harlingen. Me and Melissa, we had all 3 of our kids were born and raised right there at the same hospital that I was born in. So crazy kind of just circle of events. Working for a pastor in Harlingen that I'd actually gotten to know and worked for when I lived in Louisiana, working at a boys' home. He ran the boys' home and had now moved from Louisiana down to South Texas and was the pastor of that church that I'd gone to as a kid. Again, crazy circle. And so moved down there to take a job, and gave up. I was working at a bank and helping my wife manage a bookstore. Run a bookstore there in Kansas, and so we left all that behind. And
like a small town bookstore, or like a Barnes and Noble?
No, small town. Melissa was quite the entrepreneur. She had a bookstore there in town. It was a book and gift shop, kind of a Christian-based book and gift shop. They had everything that the town needed in books and gifts. Town of like 1,800 people, so tiny. But then she also ran her own framing shop. Was on the board of the town. Yeah, she was quite the big to-do. So when I moved her away, I was thought to be Satan himself. I was not liked very much. It was a bad deal there for
Oh,
a little
man.
while. Her mom and dad thought I moved her to Mexico, and I kind of did. But yeah, it was not a good deal there for a little bit. And then they came down and visited us, and just saw how right it was for us, and knew that it was a good thing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long were you in? Man, you ever have to say this a bunch. How long were you in Harlingen for?
In Harlingen now. Okay, and moving back, so lived there probably close to 11 years, roundabout. I guess we moved there. Well, I guess it was 2003 that we moved there, and we moved here to Paris in 2013. So probably right at 10 years, right
Wow.
over 10 years.
And you had all 3 kids there, right?
All 3 of my kids, Jillian, my first, and then Jackson, and then Jordan. Yeah, all 3 of them there. They grew up in Mexico. They knew what a real taco was. I knew how to eat Mexican. That's all we knew. Man, that's the, you go to the corner store and you can buy a burrito for 99 cents that's bigger than, anything you've ever seen. It's a fattening way to live.
Your forearm.
It's a terrible lifestyle. It's serious. It's like, well, not my forearms. Maybe somebody else's, a bigger person's forearms.
Oh, wow. Even
Sylvester's.
bigger than that. Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
Sylvester's forearms. It's just crazy. I mean, the food you can get down there is unlike anything. And there's at every gas station, not even at restaurants. Restaurants, a whole nother story. But even at every gas station, corner store, there is a grandma, there's an abuela in the back that is hand rolling out fresh tortillas that they're amazing. Like fresh tortillas on everything. Everywhere you go.
Left all of that to move to Paris, Texas.
Moved to Paris, Texas in 2013. It was spring break. I had been coming up since the latter part of 2012, helping out a pastor that was previously here. He was dealing with some health issues, and they ended up getting together, him and my pastor, my overseer. They got together and they said, man, we'd really like to see Cory step in and take over as the pastor of Christian Fellowship in Paris. It's a sister church of the one down there. And they'd kind of been, I guess, raising me, grooming me, if you will, to come up and take over that. But we moved in, the whole family. We actually came up and visited. It was Thanksgiving of 2012. And I still remember we had borrowed a buddy's RV. So here I am, full-on Chevy chasing it, driving from South Texas because we're going to preach here in Paris over Thanksgiving, and then we're going to drive up to see Melissa's family in Kansas. And as we preached, we got back on the road, and as we're driving away out of Paris, Melissa sees that sign, kind of leaving Paris sign, and looks back in the rearview mirror and just starts bawling and knows this is it. Paris is where we're supposed to be. I'd already felt it. I'd already known. I still remember the first time I drove in 2012. You set your GPS. I'd fly into Dallas, rented a car, and I just set my GPS and hit go. Wasn't paying attention, wasn't looking at the map, just listening to directions and driving. And I still remember all of a sudden, not knowing where I'm at, I drive through this little small town, and GPS is telling me take a left, take a right, whatever. And I'm just amazed at this little small town. And I see the square, and I'm looking at what all's going on. And I'm blown away by how beautiful this quaint, this little small town is. And then, my GPS goes, ding, you have arrived. And I realized, oh my God, this is Paris. So for me, it was completely surreal. For Melissa, the same. We're driving away. She's bawling. She knows. Before they ever even offered us a position to come up here, we knew that Paris was home for us. And see, there you go. That right there, that should make me Parisian.
There you go.
But again, I'm an outsider moving in, but we walked in, and from day one, we knew this is where we wanted to be. This is where we wanted to raise our family. This is where we wanted to do life.
That's amazing. That is freaking amazing. What is your favorite place for food in Paris? I know, and I know there's a lot, so we're not trying to put anybody, like, if any of you people who own restaurants or businesses here, I realize there's a lot.
Look, see, I don't know that I can answer that with a single answer.
Do we need to narrow it down to like a genre of food?
Well, okay, let's diving down into genres. Mexican. Let's go ahead and hit
since
that.
we already talked about Mexican, let's go Mexican.
I will say this: I was excited to see that I wasn't leaving behind all the Mexican restaurants. There was going to be some Mexican restaurants, and there is some great food. My only disappointment is I haven't found one. Maybe there is one. I've tried a few. But I haven't found one yet where there is a fresh tortilla being rolled out for everything. Like when I order fajitas, if it doesn't come with a fresh tortilla, if that tortilla has the smell of store-bought, it kills it for me. But again,
you haven't found that yet here.
I haven't found a fresh tortilla. Now there's downtown, kind of as you're driving east out of town. There's a little. It's a little like a bread shop, a Mexican bread shop, and you can go in and you can buy fresh tortillas from them. But as far as a restaurant, great food. I love some of what they do. It's not the Mexican that I'm used to. It's a little different, but man, some poblano chicken, some of the stuff they do here, it's great. I just crave
that.
An abuela that knows how to roll a tortilla. I miss that. Mexican, there's a bunch.
So if you know, I can't say an umbrella.
Hey, grandma.
Grandma. If you
abuela.
know grandma that can do that, and she's up for moving to Paris, Texas.
Yeah.
You guys, she probably could make a killing here.
I would kick my son out of his room, move and put her up.
She's already got a home.
I would totally make room. My son, he would be okay with it if he knew it was for fresh tortillas.
And there's probably a gas station somewhere in Paris that would give her a spot.
I
Guaranteed.
I can only dream. So yeah, as far as restaurants in town, man, I love food. I love food, so I can't say there's one.
We have this friend, and they go on some vacations, and they're like, vacations to us is food. Like,
yeah,
like if we can't go out to eat as much as we want, like then there's no reason
sampling
to go
the countryside
right
via my mouth. I mean, it's the only way to do it. I've been all over the world, had some great foods, and so yeah, I enjoy food. I love food. I'm trying to not show that I enjoy food so much. I need to work it off.
Yeah.
But yes, I love food. Very
awesome. And so Paris, Texas is your home.
This is it. We love it. We found home.
It's amazing.
We found a place where we belong, and not just where we belong, but where we want to be a part. Where we can get involved in people's lives, where they can get involved in our lives, where as soon as we moved here, I think one of the keys, man, I will say, when we moved to town, there were certain people that said, oh, Paris is very closed-minded. They're very cliquish, and you're not going to be able to fit in. And when we moved in, we found just the opposite. And I think I know why. There's probably many reasons, but for us, when we moved to town, Downtown Community Theater was doing a project, Annie. They were putting on Little Orphan Annie. Mm-hmm. And so we moved to town and immediately got involved. My youngest daughter, Jillian, she was, she was probably, I don't know how old she was now. She was young. Anyway, she ended up getting the lead role of Annie. But we just dove into the community. We got involved, and we found that everybody was so welcoming, so open. And what I think I learned is the people that were saying Paris is very cliquish, very closed-minded, were the people that were shut up in their homes, not getting outside, didn't want to be involved, didn't want to go downtown, didn't want to see what was happening. And so to them it was. And yeah, if you're not gonna open yourself up, then nobody's gonna open up.
Your city is what you make it. So if you invest in it, it will be amazing.
Yes, absolutely. That's just it. It's what you put into it. And so we came in, I dare say guns blazing. We wanted to be involved. We wanted to see what was going on. And with that, the community opened their arms just the same as we were opening ours. And we have just fallen in love. We've loved it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and being on my podcast. I enjoy hearing people's stories so much. That's why I do this.
Man, thank you. And then, well, like this, you are doing a great job of being involved in the community and showing off what all we have. So thank you for having me, but then as well just for putting this on. We love it and excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. I enjoy doing it. Guys, we do a new podcast every Monday. So tune in. You can find it on any podcast app. So if you have a one you like, just go there. If you're not familiar with podcast, you probably didn't. I don't know how you found this. So, but if you're not familiar with podcast, just Google it or go to your iPhone and just type in podcast, and there's an app.
There's a built-in app.
There's a built-in app.
You can't buy an iPhone without a podcast app.
So if you have someone who you think might like hearing stories from people who live in Paris, Texas, suggest this podcast for them. There's actually a group on Facebook called Paris, Texas, a podcast. So you can go and you can join that group, and I send out reminders, and I even post fun videos sometimes that relate to the podcast that previously came out. So just join in all the fun. Thank you guys so much. Bye.